Okay. Hi. Let's see if we're live. Connect streaming software to go live. I did. Connect. Okay. We're live. Boom. We did it. All right. That feels like a win, even of it in and of itself, right there. I think we're live. I love the beginning of all like live videos of like not to be like, to bring out our age, but like people in our like age bracket. How the beginning of most live videos are like, are we live? Are we
It's like,
live?
can you hear me now?
No,
But really, no, did it work?
I don't know. So on my desktop, when I pull up Facebook, I think we're live, but I don't see it on my phone.
Okay.
There we
Yeah, I don't see it
go.
on my phone yet.
I don't see it on my phone either.
It's definitely doing more than it did like a couple minutes ago. I know that.
I wonder if it's just like delayed.
I think it might be. All right, let's just roll. I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about imposter syndrome. So this came up for me this week, like because of my own experiences, but also just like talking to other people. I feel like it's like one of those things that's just like hitting me from like all angles, And I think it's important to talk about. So let's define it first, and let's talk about it. So, do you have a definition, Tiff or Megan, for what imposter syndrome is? Like, what? I mean, we hear people talk about it a lot, but what is it even defined?
I define it from a general sense of being in a space that you don't feel you're supposed to be in.
Okay.
And that could be in any, usually you feel it more like in a role that you have, you know, but it could
But you
probably
have
go.
these feelings
Mhm.
inside of you, like when you're in this space, like
Yeah,
fish
you're
out
not
of
good enough. You don't
water.
have,
Okay.
yeah, you don't have, for me, it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like there's missing information that you don't have. You're doing something that, you know, you haven't done all your research on, or you're talking about something you haven't written a book about it. So why are you talking about it? Just a level of inadequacy from me
Okay.
in the space.
I think of it too of like the word that just came up for me was like like not being qualified,
Oh yeah.
and that in these roles, like we think that we have to have like all everything lined up, like the education or the certifications or the experience or even like the the same shared experience too of like a good or a bad thing to feel qualified to be able to speak on things. So I think of it so much as like a feeling, and that feeling of
Sorry,
self-doubt.
Josie, Jojo.
Yeah, the feeling of
Sorry, y'all. Child at
it's
home.
okay. We're all having dog issues. Like
We have our sweats on. We
this
got
is
kids running, dogs.
dogs. This is
It's just how it is today. Friday
real life.
morning. Hmm.
Real life as a therapist.
I think that word disqualified or not qualified has a lot of like weight for me. Like I just think that's like, you know, I think that really like is a good word to encompass this, because that's kind of what sneaks in is like there's somebody better to do this than me at this moment, you know. Um so yeah. So it's kind of a felt sense when you're in a situation. And I would also throw in there after, because I feel like I probably experience these imposter thoughts like during rumination and not like while I'm actually like dialed into the thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's when I'm going back and I'm thinking about like what I said or what I didn't say that I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's someone better to do this than me.
I think of it more on the front end of it, less. I find I'm able to like put things to bed. Like I'll ruminate like a little bit, like, oh, I wish, I've done that, but in more of it is like on the front end of like, ugh, why are you not like, why am I doing that? And I remember hearing a podcast a couple years ago, and this is something I kind of hold on to, where she said it's courage before confidence. And when I think of confidence, I think of like the lack of confidence that comes into play with imposter syndrome. And so really like utilizing, okay, like I don't actually have to be fully confident or feeling fully qualified. I just need to like trust myself and trust what I do have to offer is still important, and really just kind of taking that leap of faith and seeing what happens.
I don't want to jump too quickly into like the faith element of it, but that it does like, maybe that's where we can land the plane, is, because I just feel like God puts us in these situations. Like, I feel like we're not necessarily ever ready. And if we were, like, how do we, like, I mean, of course, like we are quote unquote qualified to do the things that we do. We have the degree, we have the training. Like, we're not going to unethically do something. But even in those spaces, for me, like, I still feel like sometimes personality wise or like life experience wise or like whatever, I still might not be the best like person to do this. But in those situations, like, to just think about like, okay, no, like, the Lord has put you here. Like, it's okay. Like, use your like voice. And I think of myself as so, like, if I picked this computer up right now and walked around and just showed you the room I'm in, like, and how like disorganized it is right now, I just feel like that's my personality. Like, I kind of, never feel fully ready. I'm kind of, we jump and we do. And if I look back on my life, I feel like the Lord like takes all that, like all of that. And even if it doesn't come out right, or even if whatever, like, I I can look at that and be like, no, like, that was, that was for me, and that was for the people that was around. And there was something in that, even if it wasn't packaged perfectly, that maybe wasn't supposed to be packaged perfectly, and there was a gift in that. But there's also always something I feel like he's like pulling me into that I don't quite feel ready for. So there's a courage that has to come into play there.
Yeah, as you're talking, I start getting, kind of images of like, being, I'll bring that even into the counseling arena where, like, I think good counseling from my perspective is like client and clinician have to kind of like lean on each other. Right? Like, they have to, it's not that the expectation that a counselor has all the answers, knows exactly what to do, is going to tell you the right thing. You miss out on attunement if that's our expectation. But that's kind of where that imposter comes from, right? Of like, well, a good therapist does dot, dot, dot. And I need to dot, dot, dot. And I'm going to look for these ways to make sure I'm doing right what I'm supposed to do. But the client's coming in like, I have to trust her, right? I have to be willing, to do this and this. But we kind of do have to lean on each other to get through that process. Like, I have to, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when we do that, it kind of, I don't get imposter syndrome so much anymore. I did in the beginning of doing this because it was new and I had my idea of what a therapist should be and this is what I want to do. Yet what you were also saying, Jessie, about there are times when I'm like, God, you know what my training is. You know what I'm good at. Like, show me what needs to, like, what do I need to do? Like, I can offer these things, like, these are my pizza toppings. This is what I got. And I have to be okay with that,
Yeah.
and I go, yeah, okay. And then I don't get as much of that imposter because at the end of the day, it's like, have I met someone where they're at? And have I, held their story? Have I attuned with them. Because if that doesn't happen, nothing else really matters in that session. Like we could have all the tools, Megan, right? Of these fun and the fun things that we do, but that doesn't matter if we're not attuning and just being in the space.
And attuning is just like a big word for like connecting. You know?
Sorry. Yes. Connecting with the client, with people, right? Sometimes to get out of that imposter, we just have to start seeing people, as opposed to, client clinician or boss this. If we can kind of get into just that person to person, some of that imposter feeling, I think kind of goes away a little bit.
Because then it takes away the thought that like you're supposed to know more than the other person.
Right.
I hear that a lot, right? Well, you're the professional. And I'm like, but like, yeah, but if it was easy, we could all just take a mental health pill, and be better. Right. So we have to get down to that. What I think I was trying to, explain is just get to see people on this level of humanity and see what comes to the table. Because I think underneath some of that, I do believe that all of us have the ability within our bodies to heal. There's just so much going on that we can't see it or get to it, and we need help, right, to get through it.
Yes.
Because when we do EMDR and brain spotting, the best part about that is we don't know what that client needs, what that person needs. All we're doing is staying in the space, putting some clinical training into it, and letting their bodies do the work.
Yeah. And then the question is, what's coming up for you now? And then we go from there.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of like, if we let's take our profession out of it, but let's think of it with like a medical doctor, right? Like if I go to like a medical doctor, I still need to know enough about myself to kind of, I've heard people say you're your own like primary care physician. And basically what that means is like, we have to take ownership over like our own health and then come into our relationship with our physician and partner with them and use their expertise, but still be able to kind of like, hey, this is how I felt after this happened or that happened or whatever. Like I've got to like, it's a partnership with our physician. It's a partnership with our therapist as well. Like when I go into my therapy, it's a part, like I'm trusting her to kind of guide me and lead me and give me tools and whatever. If we're doing a specific modality, like of course, like she's leading, but I'm not going into that space thinking of her as like the expert of me, of my life, and so, yeah, I think that does like kind of for the professional in the space that kind of alleviates some of that, like, this is when I start thinking of bloodline, I always do this, but like it's a partnership. It's an equal partnership for sure. I think that does alleviate. What are some other things like mindset wise for you guys that help you kind of combat these feelings of inadequacy? And then let's also talk about like just the fact that, I really think from a spiritual perspective that this imposter syndrome thing is an attack on our freedom. Like, I just think like as like followers of Christ in this world trying to do what we do, like he's given us a heart, he's given us gifts and talents, he's given us a heart for things, to do things. And I think that this imposter syndrome type thing is something that the enemy uses to try to like slow us down, to try to cause us to hesitate and not go boldly into spaces that really could bring freedom for us and for other people. So what are some other like mindsets that have shifted for you guys and that are helpful for you guys to kind of combat those feelings?
Well, I'm going to jump. Oh, go ahead, Megan.
I was just going to say, the stronger that imposter syndrome comes up, if I look at it like from a perspective of like, man, the enemy must really not want me to do this. And then that actually, instead of thinking, oh, that's right, it's like, okay, there's something there for me. And like that, I know like this is something I really should be doing.
Yeah.
And so it actually makes it feel softer because I'm like, okay, like if that's, it's like an alert to my system. Like if the imposter syndrome gets like really loud, I'm like, okay, I'm really supposed to do this.
Yeah.
Because, and then just kind of mentally like asking the Holy Spirit just to like give me the peace to like go forward in it and to take away and to like use, you know, put me out of the way and use words or actions that are aligning with like what he's like, why he's called me to be in that situation. So yeah, I would say like the louder it gets, if I can remember that and like use that mind shift of like, oh, okay, like this is actually a good sign for me, not a bad sign that I should just stop. It's not like a stop action. It's like move forward, be the change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what comes to mind for me, Jessie, it is, you know, more on that spiritual route of it's there's a mindset that I think a lot of us have had of like, you know, God has a plan, and sorry, the dog is really wanting attention.
Okay, this is why I love this. Like, I love these like Facebook lives because like you really get to see like, you know, exactly kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we're just
yeah.
regular people.
This
like,
is just us,
you know. Yeah.
right? But there's this. Sometimes I think because I've had it, I do it too. It's like, you know, God has a plan for me, and it's my job to make the right choices to stay in His plan, right? And that comes with a lot of pressure. Like I can make a decision, right?
It kind of pulls some of that freedom out of it, right?
Which there's no freedom at. It's like, oh, I have to choose door number one, or everything has to be like I'm trying to get into this predefined plan for me. But I don't think that's how it is at all. I think God's like, I have created you with gifts. I am with you. Let's walk.
Yeah,
let's just go.
Run. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, are you listening to me? Like, am I with you? Like, it's not this making choices that put us in or out of some predefined plan. Because again, where's the freedom in that? Where's the good news? It's not. It's in performance, right? Making the right decision, and then we have expectations, and you know, the imposter, and it's even like, so it's, let's switch that to more of a relational, which is what God wants. He doesn't want robots. Like, that's not a relationship, right? We don't want robotic children. We want them to obey, but we also want them to enjoy life and have a personality and, you know, have freedom. So,
and even that obedience, like we can talk about that on another day, but like that is coming from a place of like, I tell my kids all the time, like, I love you and I want to keep you safe. And that's mommy's job. Right. Like, and so, you know, I mean, even outside of that, like today, I probably don't need to talk about this right now. Had a situation with one of my children about something they were going to wear. And, you know, like I overreacted. And in that moment, I could have like asserted my quote unquote authority over her to like have her do what, you know, but we talked it out and we landed in a place. And did it come down to like, you know, these like basic things like, you know, like wear them, wear your pants, you know, like you feel confident in them, like go for it. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry that like I acted the way that I did in that moment. But even that obedience thing, like, you know, like we're called to obey the Lord, but it's just like it's because he's good and he like wants good for us, and the things that he's laid out for us to walk in that we see in scripture, and then like just by leading of his spirit, like we can trust him. So it's not an authoritative, like it's a loving relationship where he's got our good for us. I think about, and I've probably told this story, and Megan, me and you might have talked about it when we even did our podcast together last year, but I took my kids up to, there's this really great basketball coach up in Somerville, people. basketball people in the area. She played at Duke. She I think played professionally too, but it's Mosh ball, Coach Mosh. She's got a facility up there. But I took my Harper up there a few years back when we were in our basketball era, and she said this comment, and it will always be with me. But she was having them learn a new move, and she said, "Make aggressive mistakes." And I thought, oof, that is amazing. Like, that is it. Like, because if you're not going hard in a move, you're going to do it halfway and it's not going to work, right? If you go hard in a move and you're trying to like cross over, go behind your back, do something new that your body has not done before, that ball's going to bounce off your foot sometimes, like you're going to have to chase it out of bounds and come back to it. But there's no such thing. That's not a mistake. That is like that's forward momentum where you are like moving into like being able to master this new move. And so that really for me with like imposter syndrome has been a mindset shift, is like make aggressive mistakes, like be bold. I say this a lot. Like, I feel like I come into a space with like, there was this, is it called a meme or is that how you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's this meme where it's like this person coming into a space with a pizza box. I've said this before. I say this a lot. Y'all have heard me say it probably. And this person comes in, they've got this yummy, warm pizza to deliver into the room, and then they like trip, and then the pizza is like out all over the floor. The box is spilled, right? I feel like that is a picture of like my public speaking or like just maybe like personal interaction sometimes. But I can look back at my life and see how the Lord like uses that. Like he uses that spilled pizza all over the floor like to communicate what he wants to communicate. And sometimes that's like, hey, like here's this lady, whatever you think about her, she's not perfect, but she's still trying, I don't know if that's what's communicated, but I'm okay with it now. Like I'm okay with like, making aggressive quote unquote mistakes, which aren't really mistakes.
For me, it's funny, Jessie, because like for me, I like, it's like, when I get up and like, I don't mind speaking in front of people. Like I can, I have that, but for me, that insecurity or it comes from, nobody, like it's falling on dead ears. Like they're hearing me, but it's not making an impact. And so that's what I look for is, have I impacted anybody? Is anyone hearing this? Like who's gonna engage with me? And when you do announcements, like no one does. Like they just sit
Everybody's
there.
looking at their phones. Megan, right? That's what we were talking about when we were doing those classes. Like we gotta have the like.
We need the engagement.
We need it.
We need you to laugh at our corny jokes.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah, and so I had to develop.
That's right.
Yeah, yes, and I had to develop some because I'm like, okay, I need this, I want this, and it's funny for me, and so I started trying to incorporate something into the announcements that
you bring it. You got material.
About material. I started bringing some material, and
oh, man.
but I was like, but again, for me to jump back into the therapy world, it's like I do want to bring material to my sessions. I really desire it's a person, for the stuff that has been in my life, which I include God in that for sure. He's now using in an outpouring way. And so I don't have tens of years of counseling, but I have tens of years of life living, of experience that can, gets brought in. And, but anyways, yeah. So for me, it's more that, are they responding? Is this effective?
And that's that connection piece. And I think we can land it here, because I want to say this and then let's just leave people with like final thoughts. But like that's what we're after, is that like connection piece. And it's not necessarily, I mean, it's definitely validating when you feel like you've connected with someone, you know. And I almost want a t-shirt that's like, I'm not weird, I'm just trying to connect with you, because like it's like the lady at the, you know, the grocery store checkout, you know what I mean? Or like, I just want to have a moment where like I've connected with another human, whether that be in the counseling space, whether that be if I'm speaking, whether that be, you know. And to me, that communicates back and forth like a shared value between two humans, like not necessarily like an agreed upon value, but like I value you as a human, I see you, like we've connected, we've had a moment, maybe it's a laugh over something silly, you know, but there's been a point of, in that person's day, in my day, we've connected, you know. There's a lady at the grocery store that, like, I don't know her name, but Josie, she's in the other room, my homeschooled kid, she like knows Josie and Josie knows her. And when we go through the grocery store, she's like, hey Josie. And you know, like, but those like connection points I think are like really important. And that's really good feedback for me to feel. And I think everyone, like that connection piece, like it does alleviate that whatever we're imposter syndrome or whatever we're calling this. Like when we feel it, it creates safety, I guess. Like you feel more free to then like really be yourself in a space when you feel connected.
Yeah. Not isolated and alone in your feelings.
Yeah.
So connection brings connection brings I lost the word, Jessie.
Safety.
It's not, no, it wasn't safety, but it'll come back to me. Someone else go.
All right. Megan, what you got? Final thoughts?
Connection brings community.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
There it is. You know, people, that's what it is. It's okay. I'm seen, I'm heard. Oh, inclusion, right? Connection brings inclusion.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Megan.
No, I mean, I think that was with the imposter syndrome, it's intended to feel isolate, right? Like it is isolating in your thoughts, or because again, like we don't want to admit when we feel weak or we feel like not qualified. And so that's also an attack to be like, okay, be isolated in that, because if you talk about that, then again, you're feeding into that narrative that you're not qualified. So if building connection kind of goes against that, then like when we do have those feelings of imposter syndrome, looking like, hey, well, maybe this is my sign. Like, how can I bring someone else into this? How do I need to seek connection in this moment to help support me, maybe fleshing out thoughts or insecurities with someone else to be able to move forward if this is something I feel like I really need to be doing, if it feels like a calling of some sorts, or even just like, you know, like this is something I need to do. Maybe I just need to dig in and find a little courage before that confidence comes.
And that makes me think of like the team aspect, right? Like, you know, like I was in the office the other day. I didn't have a lot of time to like have conversation, but Christy had her door open and I just like went to her door, gave her a high five and like went down the hallway. You know what I mean? So even those like small little touch points of connection, like that come from, you know, from those, for those of us that like have been around sports or like have come up, like building up your teammates even in those ways of like I think a high five is like a beautiful like symbol of like, I got you, you got this, I believe in you, go get it, you know. That doesn't need to have any words attached to it, but having the courage within ourselves, but putting that courage in each other, I think is important.
Absolutely. All right. And I'll land the plane on a thought and more of kind of a, like, how do I apply this in my life? Because that's kind of just how my brain works. Is when we're in situations that we've described where the imposter might come up, is going back to like your basics. What do you know for sure, like about yourself and about other people. At the end of the day, whether it's someone in the grocery store, whether it's, this, or that, whatever it is, did I take time to meet them in the moment and treat them with respect? Like, I can always go back to that, right? And anything else is icing on the cake. So what is the thing that we sometimes we've got to go back to basics of, and it's usually simple. It's something real simple of, did I do, the best that I could? Did I meet him in the moment? Did I give him attention? Did I treat him with respect? Was I truthful? Okay.
Yeah. And that makes me think of like, just what you were talking about earlier, Tiff, like when you were describing our relationship with the Lord, like just walking and listening. And like, I know Dr. Walford's going to talk next weekend at the summit about like just being attuned to the Holy Spirit during session, but like carrying that over into just daily. Like, don't withhold. Like, if something comes to my mind, like I have yelled in Carline, I've rolled my window down and yelled at a lady like who's walking down the street that I like her jacket, and she didn't hear me the first time. I even had to yell it twice, but like to never withhold when that stuff comes to us, especially as women, like to never withhold those like things from each other, to always be looking to build each other up, because sometimes in the quiet, in the not saying anything, people interpret that as like something else. And you could really like set somebody's day free by saying like, you are rocking that jacket right now, or like whatever, so just to be even bold in those things and those offerings that we give each other, I think is where I'm at. Okay. So guys, I think I'm happy with that. How do y'all feel?
Are we still recording? Are we
Yes.
still Facebook living?
Hold on. I want to just say this before we stop living. I think it would be cool as people watch this, if y'all like, I think we'll try to do this like once a month. We have our virtual coffee with our team we're third Friday, right? On the third Friday morning. So we would be third Friday morning at 9. It'll be members of the team that'll hop on, but I think it would be cool if y'all give us topics too. Like, we'll come up with things that like we're seeing, but like if there's anything you want us to just like chop up and talk about, just throw it out to us and we'll do it. I think this is fun. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, y'all.
It was fun.
Cheers.